Doug in Florida.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Yuri, for staying up late with us. That is pretty incredible. Everything. Brilliant discussion. Val Golan says hello. I hope that name rings a bell. Yeah. Okay. And a special mazel for the growth of Pantera, she told me to relay to you. That being said, something that's always fascinated me, as I've had an opportunity to work with a handful of high growth Tel Aviv founded startups down here in South Florida, Val has something to do with that, is Israel has a population of about 8 million people or so. And the number of per capita entrepreneurs coming out of Israel far surpasses, I believe, any other country on earth. So I'm hoping you can elaborate, obviously, from your unique and direct experience, what you attribute this to, and besides just chutzpah, which I hear a lot about, of course, but is there a unique partnership between public and private sectors in Israel that spurs all this growth? You know, is there government incentive and involvement type of thing? If you could take that wherever you can, I'd appreciate it.
So, you know, it's funny because I just wrote today an article about the uniqueness of today is, or tomorrow is actually Israel in the 75th Independence Day. And so I wrote an article about the uniqueness of the startup ecosystem of Israel. And in general, there are 4 cornerstones that are required. One is entrepreneurs, right? And so, more entrepreneurs creates better ecosystem, and the way to get more entrepreneurs is actually by lowering the fear of failure. And I think that in Israel, in general, it's pretty low. In many other places, it's low as well. In the US, it's actually rather low. In some countries, people are afraid to fail, or in some countries, if you fail, then you cannot start a new business ever again, right? And so obviously, either regulations or the social payment or the social price is too high for people to fail, and therefore they don't try. The second cornerstone is investors, right? And so you need to create an investor or investment thesis that makes sense for investors and make it compelling for them, right? From taxation point of view, from, in many cases, support of the government and so forth. The third element is engineers, and there are actually a lot of engineers in Israel. And the fourth one is experience, which is actually, you know, increasing over time, right? And so when I started, there were way less experienced entrepreneurs that were there to help. But now there are way more. The fifth element is what makes Israel unique. And that's actually the mandatory military service. And when you go to do your service at the age of 18 for 2 or 3 years, 2 for females and 3 for males, you ended up with, you know, facing challenges that no one else at the age of 18 faced. You ended up with realizing that giving up is not an option, right? You realize that if you have to do something, the mission needs to be completed, right? And you will figure out different ways to complete it. You learn how to work in teams, you realize leadership, and all of a sudden you ended up at the age of 21 or 22 with way more important skills that you could have learned at school. And I think that what makes Israel pretty unique. Now, we have mandatory military service because we are in a tough neighborhood, right? And to a certain extent, I would say if you grew up in a tough neighborhood, you grew up tough.